The Young and the Restless spoilers. Victor Newman had weathered countless storms throughout his reign over Genoa City, but few wounds cut as deeply as the one he believed Nikki had inflicted upon him. In his eyes, betrayal was an unforgivable offense, especially when it came from the woman he had loved, protected, battled, and reunited with more times than anyone could count. Yet this time something had shifted in him. Instead of the fiery, confrontational Victor the world knew, he embraced a cold, calculating silence, the kind that signaled not surrender, but strategy. Victor did not intend to confront Nikki with raised voices or grand declarations. He planned to dismantle her slowly, methodically, through the one battlefield where he always emerged victorious, the legal arena. Behind the walls of Newman Enterprises, his elite team of attorneys worked with relentless precision, sifting through documents, correspondences, corporate filings, and financial audits. They constructed a narrative that painted Nikki not as a loyal spouse and trusted partner, but as a liability, a woman who had allegedly leaked sensitive corporate information and manipulated her social position for personal gain. None of it had been proven as true, but Victor understood better than anyone that in war, perception often mattered more than fact. His lawyers assembled evidence, some circumstantial, some exaggerated, some obtained through methods that no one dared question. When the accusations were finally compiled into a formal legal action, it was not rage Nikki felt, it was disbelief. She had survived addiction, handles, kidnappings, blackmail, and public humiliation. But the idea that Victor would weaponize the law against her left her paralyzed in a way no enemy had accomplished before. The lawsuit accused her of breaching corporate confidentiality, funneling information to outside investors, and misappropriating resources for personal advantage. Suddenly, she found herself thrust into a nightmare where her integrity, her loyalty, and her entire identity were under attack. But Nikki, though shaken, was not a woman who collapsed easily. Beneath her elegance and softness was a spine forged through decades of surviving the Newman universe. She reached out to the allies who had stood by her through darker times: Victoria, Nicholas, and even a hesitant Abby, hoping to anchor herself before the world spun completely out of control. Yet even in the sanctuary of family, she sensed hesitation. No one wanted to challenge Victor. No one wanted to be the one to choose sides. The tension fractured the Newman household into invisible but undeniable lines, each step on the hardwood floors of the ranch echoing with suspicion and unspoken fear. And then the financial blow struck. Victor, exercising his power with surgical cruelty, froze Nikki's personal assets, claiming the need to preserve corporate integrity until the investigation was complete. Overnight, she found herself unable to access accounts she had managed for years, unable to pay her legal team, unable to move freely without feeling the weight of confinement. Genoa City buzzed with gossip. Reporters swarmed the courthouse steps. Socialites whispered behind manicured hands. Some believed Nikki had finally overplayed her influence, that her glamorous life had always hidden opportunism. Others insisted Victor had lost himself, becoming a tyrant so obsessed with control he would destroy the woman who had loved him longest. Every rumor chipped away at her reputation. Invitations stopped arriving. Charities quietly paused collaborations. People crossed the street rather than be photographed beside her. Yet the most surprising reaction came from Jack Abbott. For years, his relationship with Nikki had danced between love, nostalgia, and a quiet understanding that some connections never truly fade. Jack knew things Victor did not: truths about past negotiations, hidden vulnerabilities within Abbott that overlapped with choices Nikki had once made. He possessed information that could either exonerate her or plunge them both into chaos. For days he paced his office, staring at documents that could tilt the trial. He envisioned Nikki's face the moment she learned Victor had turned their marriage into a battlefield. He had seen the devastation Victor's wrath could cause, and for the first time in a long time, Jack questioned whether loyalty to business was worth abandoning loyalty to the woman who had once saved him from himself. As the trial date inched closer, Genoa City transformed into a war zone of opinions. Victor's supporters admired his ruthlessness, praising him for protecting Newman Enterprises from internal corruption. Nikki's defenders condemned him, calling the lawsuit an act of emotional violence disguised as corporate necessity. Every tabloid, gossip blog, and financial news outlet speculated wildly. Some claimed Nikki had been framed. Others insisted Victor possessed damning and released evidence. The uncertainty, the noise, the pressure had all pressed down on Nikki until she felt her world closing in like a tightening cage. Still, she refused to break. She crafted her defense with the fragments of support she could gather, piecing together her case with sheer determination. She vowed to prove her innocence, and not for Victor, not for the public, but for herself. For the version of Nikki Newman who had clawed her way through addiction, heartbreak, scandal, and loss to emerge stronger every time. Yet even as she fought, the question lingered: why was Victor doing this? Was he punishing her for a real betrayal? Or was he attacking preemptively, fearing vulnerabilities he could not admit aloud? Did he still love her beneath the icy rage, or had that love finally eroded into something dangerous? Jack, watching from the shadows of Jabot's executive suite, knew that whether he stepped in or stayed silent, the consequences would be irreversible. His testimony could save Nikki, but it could also reignite the longest feud in Genoa City and paint a permanent target on his back. And somewhere deep down, he wondered if this chaos was exactly what Victor wanted. Not justice, not truth, but power complete, and challenged power over the narrative, over Newman Enterprises, over Nikki's fate, and over anyone who dared stand between him and control. As winter crept across Genoa City, casting long shadows over the Newman Ranch and Jabot's glass towers, Nikki stood at the threshold of a transformation she had not chosen. Victor stood poised to crush her, convinced righteousness was on his side. The city whispered, families fractured, loyalties shifted, and the question that haunted them all remained suspended in uncertainty, in a war where love had turned into a legal battlefield. Who would still be standing when the verdict finally came, and who would discover that the real destruction had nothing to do with the law, but with the irreversible breaking of a bond that had shaped their lives for decades? Nikki Newman had endured public humiliation, frozen assets, and legal accusations designed to crush her spirit. But the moment she realized Victor would not stop until he dismantled everything she had built, something inside her hardened into resolve. She had spent her entire adult life navigating the terrain of Victor's power, sometimes as his partner, sometimes as his adversary, always aware that walking away was never as simple as choosing a door and closing it behind her. But this time the stakes were different. He had weaponized the law against her. He had isolated her, stripped her resources, and tarnished her reputation. And so, for the first time in years, she acknowledged a truth she had buried for too long: survival required more than dignity. It required strategy. It required a counterattack. And there was only one man in Genoa City with both the motive and the capability to challenge Victor Newman on equal footing: Jack Abbott. Stepping into Jack's office at Jabot felt like crossing a dangerous threshold. Their history, tangled with love, loss, and nostalgia, gave the moment a strange electricity. Nikki didn't come as a damsel seeking rescue. She arrived as a tactician seeking an alliance. She told him, with a calmness that surprised even her, that Victor was trying to destroy her completely. Jack listened, conflicted but attentive, until Nikki revealed the weapon she had been hiding: an advanced artificial intelligence program. Originally developed inside Newman Enterprises, but quietly stolen long before the lawsuit began. It was a system capable of scanning corporate infrastructures, identifying vulnerabilities, predicting executive behaviors, and undermining entire business strategies with chilling precision. The program, she explained, could turn the tide for Jabot if Jack was willing to partner with her. The revelation stunned him. The idea of possessing something so powerful and so illegally acquired made Jack's mind race between outrage, temptation, and an instinctive desire to protect Nikki from the consequences of her own gamble. But as she spoke, as she described Victor's cruelty, his need for control, his willingness to annihilate her life to maintain the illusion of power, Jack saw not just the woman he once loved, but the opportunity he had been waiting for. For years, Jabot had fought Newman Enterprises from a position of disadvantage. Victor always struck first, always struck hardest. But the AI system could change everything. It could level the playing field or even tilt it. More importantly, Jack recognized that Nikki's survival was now tied to Jabot's boldness. If Victor succeeded in destroying her, no one at Jabot, not the Abbotts, not even Victor's own children, would be safe from the next strike. After a long silence, Jack agreed. The alliance was sealed not by romance or nostalgia, but by necessity and mutual understanding. They became co-conspirators, bound together by fear, ambition, and the knowledge that the moment Victor discovered their partnership, a storm unlike any Genoa City had ever seen would erupt. The first phase of their plan was subtle. Nikki and Jack fed carefully selected data into the AI, asking it to analyze Newman Enterprises' internal structure, identify operational weaknesses, and uncover any pattern of decision-making Victor might rely on. What the program revealed was startling: inefficiencies, hidden liabilities, questionable offshore dealings, and a network of manipulations Victor had orchestrated to maintain absolute control. Jack's team used the insights to predict Victor's next moves, allowing Jabba to counter-strategize with uncanny accuracy. Stock shifts, product launches, board maneuvers began aligning in ways that blindsided Victor, forcing him into a defensive posture he had not occupied in decades. At first, Victor dismissed the changes as coincidence. But coincidences piling up became anomalies, and anomalies became threats. By the time Jabba executed a flawless preemptive strike against a deal he had been engineering for months, Victor knew someone was feeding his rival information. He ordered an internal audit, summoned investigators, and began tracing digital footprints across every corner of Newman Enterprises. Meanwhile, Nikki deepened the assault. Using the AI, she orchestrated a series of data compilations exposing Victor's darkest business dealings, blackmail schemes, coercive acquisitions, and conflicts of interest buried under years of manipulation. She released select pieces to trusted board members, presenting them as whistleblower evidence. The shock within the Newman boardroom was seismic. Executives who had always feared Victor began reevaluating their allegiance. Some questioned his judgment. Others pressured him to step back temporarily or open an internal inquiry. Victor felt the ground shifting beneath him. The public fallout came next. A major leak engineered by Nikki with surgical precision reached the press, revealing ethically questionable practices tied to Newman Enterprises' expansion strategies. The market reacted instantly. Stocks dipped. Investors demanded answers. Legal analysts speculated about potential criminal implications. Victor Newman, the titan who prided himself on invincibility, found himself scrambling to contain a narrative spiraling out of his control. Yet amid the chaos, one detail stood out to him like a blade pressed against his throat. The fingerprints of the leak bore an unmistakable familiarity. The rhythm of the information, the intimate knowledge of his weak points, the precision of the strike, it all pointed to one person: Nikki. When Victor confirmed through his investigation that she had not only betrayed him but empowered Jack Abbott with stolen technology, all restraint shattered. His fury was volcanic, assuming reason and eclipsing his earlier cold strategy. He swore retaliation not just as a corporate leader, but as a man who believed the woman he had loved most had turned him into a public spectacle. Victor announced privately and soon publicly that he would not rest until he dismantled Nikki and Jack both. What had begun as a family conflict had transformed into a corporate war with the emotional violence of a marital implosion. Allies across Genoa City were forced to take sides. The Newmans splintered further. The Abbotts prepared for backlash. The press framed the unfolding events as the most catastrophic Newman-Abbott confrontation since the companies were founded. And as the battle lines hardened, the truth became painfully clear: Victor's thirst for revenge had grown into something unrecognizable, while Nikki's desperation had sharpened into a ruthless willingness to burn down the very empire she once helped sustain. She had tried to defend herself. She had tried to survive. But now she was fighting for more than innocence. She was fighting for autonomy, identity, and vengeance of her own. And Victor, realizing she had become an adversary as formidable as himself, prepared for a war that would reshape Genoa City forever. What neither of them understood yet was that the AI program, powerful but unpredictable, had already begun evolving in ways that neither alliance nor rivalry could truly control, setting the stage for consequences far beyond anything they had anticipated. Consequences that could destroy not just each other, but everything and everyone caught in the crossfire.